Starting with Srini, what was your first investment, and what are the technologies or innovation that you look into? I'll come to the team later, but from the overall business idea side, how did you decided to take that first portfolio of yours?
So for me, like I said, I am now kind of, but I'm not a traditional investor. I wasn't looking for returns alone. I was really looking to support. My idealistic vision of being an angel is literally giving money to people and helping them to succeed, hopefully. And so it was just the people. I really liked the people I gave money to. I liked the problem they were trying to solve. I didn't go much deeper than that at the time, honestly. So my first couple of investments were essentially, in my head, almost like grants.
So what was the first one that you remember? Because that's the first, first girlfriend, I guess. So what was the first one?
So the first one was actually, this is back in the US a long time ago. And in those days itself, it was what is now called EdTech, right?
Yeah.
The thesis was that obviously education is changing, and I strongly believe it needs to change. And so they were looking at a particular way of doing that using the internet. Of course, that was the thing in those days. Unfortunately, they couldn't scale it. I mean, there was an issue with that part. But yeah, it was an EdTech company.
Great.
Sanjay, just to add to what Srini said.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Just to add to what Srini said, I agree. I think startup investing is really what I like to call nurture capital. So I like to mention this to all my new friends, a lot of whom are coming into angel investing in the last 2-3 years now. Many folks from corporates, many HNIs, others, But to your question, Anubhav, my first startup investment was a company called Zipper, Aditya Wuchi. It was via Indian Angels. I was part of Indian Angels, so it was a sort of group investment of about, close to $1 million or so. What I really liked about Zipper, one was that the founder was from my school. He was my junior from HPS Begumpet, but that was just a small part of it. The actual problem which he was trying to solve and the way he pitched his story, it was that, when anybody is trying to sort of come to your home, whether it's a Uber coming early morning at 4:30 to pick you up, for a trip to the railway station or airport, he starts calling you like 1 hour prior because there was no easy way to pinpoint a location. So he was, embarking on a journey to solve that problem. He started B2C, but it had to be B2 government to C. So he went through a lot of ups and downs. Monetization was a little bit of an issue. I think Domino's and few other people signed up for some APIs and stuff like that. But he's shut that company. It's been a few months now. But Zipper was my first investment. Yeah,
great. Sailesh, startup investing is a very risky business, right? As they say, it's pray and pray. So you invest mostly in technology companies, you as in Anthill, mostly in technology companies. How much do you think a patience capital is required in these companies before you see some tangible growth or some tangible movement?
Yeah, I think even at Anthill, we're not a typical investor. So we invest in the person, and what we call as the first check is more execution capital for them to go and execute the idea and then come back and see whether it works, what doesn't work, what are the learnings. And for us, it's always been investing in the person, because what we believe strongly is that an idea can always, go either way, can always get stuck in the middle. But we strongly believe the team, the founders, can really find a path, can be resilient, can pivot and get you results. So I think that's where we invest in to get results. Yeah, I think for us, we've never really seen it as, especially initially on. Now I think we're limited by SEBI because it's a closed-ended fund. We have to give money back to our investors. But early on, there have companies we've invested in around 10 years ago, we've still stayed on because we're never really ready for an exit, nor are we pushing the founders to essentially create results just for the sake of financial returns, but more from an impact perspective. Having said that, I think discipline is also important in founders to ensure that from a financial perspective, from a team perspective, and also from an overall holistic perspective. So we do educate founders from time and again to ensure that there is a certain timeline by which they need to push results. If not, they need to look beyond that.
Yeah, please.
I mean, I think a large part of it. So I was speaking earlier from my personal investing standpoint, right? And I'm part of a company that we don't invest. We rarely, I should say, invest cash into startups, but we do invest our time and experience, especially the executive committee members who are all, they've all done amazing things. So I think one of the things is whenever you are investing anything, first of all, it depends on stage. We're all talking early stage right now, but it's very different when you get to later stage investing, right? But at the early stage, I think, at least for us, when we put money into something, the first thing we do is sit down with the founder and say, where is this money going to take you? You have to have clear goals that with this amount of capital, you have X amount of runway. Here are the milestones you need to hit. And by the way, here are the hypotheses you need to either prove or disprove, because that's a large part of what you're trying to do at a startup, right? Having said that, we're also very, very aware that it is a startup, which means that they're working on unknown unknowns. And so things will crop up, and therefore we will be patient with them, even if they don't do that. As long as we're seeing them working closely, seeing them openly sharing, what's not working or whatever, you've got to be patient, I would say.
Great. So all three of you have a different profile of as investor. You invest as a fund. You usually as an angel or part of a network. Sanjay, you also do that. And Sanjay comes from a finance background, a CA himself, and has been CFO for Sierra Atlantic for so long. What difference do you see in angel investing or a network investing than a fund? What is your opinion on that? Which one do you think is a more structured way of investment? Do you think founders take angels seriously, or they take funds more seriously with their reporting and other stuff, which Srini was talking? As much as long as we know what they are doing, we are okay even if they are failing.
Should I take that? Yeah. So Anubhav, actually angels, there is a food chain of investing, right? So you start with bootstrap, then you have friends, family, and fools, as they call it, right? FF and F. So early people in your circle who believe you. And the next stage is angels. And typically funds actually come after angels, okay? So of course, today there are a bunch of angel networks like Indian Angels, Hyderabad Angels, Mumbai Angels, AHA Ventures, Venture Catalyst, etc. And then you, of course, have early stage funds. So we are seeing that in the ecosystem. Actually, even very large VCs are coming upstream to catch ventures early, because they don't want to wait till $1 billion valuation before they put in 100 million. They want to take 10 million at a 50 million valuation. So I think the lines are blurring. To your question about how it's different, to the audience here, I would like to say that you should try and find an approach which is a considered approach. So do your research, look at, there is no or, it is all and, right? So you could approach a bunch of angels. It could be via Thai, Indian Angel, Mumbai Angel, whatever. Approach them, try to do your research on what is the stage at which these networks or individuals are investing. Are there preferences for a particular industry? Frankly, there are now alumni networks where you could have a very low friction experience. If you are from, let's say, BITS Pilani, or you are from Xavier Institute, something, you are from Osmania University. Now there are alumni investment networks where you stand a much higher chance of getting a warm hearing, right? So I would say the dynamics are different. There is no hard rule which says that a fund is tougher to get on board, but a fund gives you an advantage of a more formal approach. There is more sort of housekeeping, there is more diligence, etc., which happens rather than an angel. But I'm always in favor of that, because the better you are prepared earlier, the smoother your journey is after. I worry that because startups have no sort of tangible entry barrier, a lot of us just jump in with a very romantic view that everybody is making money, everybody is taking an idea and spinning it into crores and crores of funding. I worry about that impression, and I think today's world is already sort of bringing a lot of that smoke down to reality. Yeah, I hope I answered.
Yeah. So, but, that was insightful. What I meant was from the point of view of startups reporting to you. Do you think, as an angel, it's tough to get all the compliances and all the information that you need? You have to run after the startup, whereas in the fund case, it's more.
Not really, Anubhav. I've always believed that it's about the investors setting and actually mentoring the startup founders. And in fact, it is our duty as an investor to help them. So one of the things I like to tell all my startup founders, even very early founders, is look for a quarterly investor update, whether you have an update or not, right? Write 4 lines, because at the end of it, you can actually write and ask and say, the help I'm seeking from you is A, B, and C. But that structuring helps. So, in my view, I don't think founders are trying to evade reporting or things like that. I feel investors, it's a duty, it's a role we should do to help them, hold their hand through that, get them in the hands of a good accountant or somebody early on, so that for themselves first and for us also, their housekeeping is in order. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Srini, your first check, or even Sailesh, this question goes to both of you. You said you focus on the person. Even Sanjay sir was talking about investing in Aditya. So what? I mean, what are the parameters that you have, or is it you look at a coachable founder or the attitude? What exactly are the early stage advice? Also, it can be that you want to give to the founders when they are approaching networks or funds, that because I see a lot of people say that it is the team in which we invest. So do you have parameters like they should be from the Ivy Leagues, or does that actually matter? Because people say Zuckerberg was a dropout, but not from a local college here, right? He was dropout from Harvard or Oxford, whatever. But so, do you really think that these people are little above the curve when they approach? They have more structured approach, What do you think in the team?
So I think if I were to say that they don't have an unfair advantage, I'd probably be lying. It definitely if you really look at the statistics, it does look like they do have an advantage. Whether that's investor bias alone or if it's really genuinely that they're much better, I don't know. Personally, that's not a thing I focus on at all. I'm a strong believer in founders who, first of all, stuff about the business, right? Do they deeply understand the problem? The problem, not the solution, right? Do they really deeply understand it? Do they have a unique insight into that particular space? Have they done their homework? I look into the team for sure, the dynamics between those different people. But you look at intangible things like how, and these are harder to judge, but how tenacious are they? What's going to happen when shit hits the fan? For all startups, shit will hit the fan at some point, right? How are they going to handle that? Are they going to run, that kind of stuff? So for me, it is definitely about the team because, again, like startups are hard. You think you're going after a particular market, but you'll end up not going after that market eventually. You pivot slightly every single time. So for me, yeah, it's definitely the team.
Sailesh, any input on that?
I think Srini and I are in many ways cutting the same cloth because we try to help the founder reach their vision. And even at Antel, we've always been a strong believer in creating an ecosystem and providing tools, resources to founders to essentially, reach their goals or visions and create an impact. To add to what Srini said, I think, problem solving skills is something we've always seen. We try to analyze within founders. As Srini said, it's always going to hit the fan for sure. It's at 9 of 10 times, right? And then if it hasn't, it's just waiting for it to happen. So how do they maneuver in the situation? How do they pivot? How do they think about it? How do they resolve? And also, I think the experience that they've had growing up, right? Their personal stories are very important because those are the foundation. And I think academia is one aspect of it, but not everything. So there are many other factors we could look at, especially how they choose the team, how they pick an idea, how they let you grow that, and also whether the idea they picked is scalable in their minds or not. And I think that's one of the reasons why we always ask the founder, what is the potential exit for us as an investor? Not that we want to exit in year 3, year 5, year 7, but have they seen this path and have they seen it through, in at least in their minds?
Thanks. We did prepare a bunch of questions, but the flow of the event is going in a way that now I have to, all these questions are irrelevant. But yeah, pivot at the right time. So now coming to we remember we spoke Sanjay 4 years back, 4.5 years back, where we were seeing this was you were also very much involved that time when Techstars came to Hyderabad and they were like we are seeing startups going from 50 lakhs to 1 crore, 1 crore to 2 crore, and then stagnant for a couple of years. What do you think, or what is your understanding about these investments? Why do they? I mean, neither they are falling, neither they are going. They are just there. So, and after that, we did extensive research where we met bunch of T-Hub founders, we met investors. At that point, Prasad was also here 3-4 years back. I'm talking, and we had some findings. But I would like to hear from each one of you. What is your understanding? Why does that happen? Why at certain level the growth is stagnant and it is not like neither they are falling, neither they are going, they're just there. And you? Right. Yeah, you start.
Yeah, so that's not an easy question. Basically, why do startups plateau, right? So now there can be multiple reasons which can happen. One of the things, again, from my own observations have been that very often startup teams tend to start among friends. So there are 2 or 3 co-founders. They are often classmates. They are folks who have known each other or worked in a corporate with each other. But one of the points sometimes which is missed out is you need startup founders who are complementary to each other. In my own very personal way, I like to say that there are 3 sort of core pillars to any entrepreneurial venture, right? One is a go-to-market customer-facing pillar. And that pillar has to, like Srini very nicely said, you have to start with the problem and come back problem in, not solution out. So find a must-solve problem which is unaddressed, under-addressed, poorly addressed. A go-to-market pillar, operations and finance pillar, and a third is a technology pillar. Now, startups need to use technology because it helps you to manage with frugal resources, much lesser resources than what a traditional company needs to create that sort of enterprise, to create that sort of boost to your revenue. So what I find, Anubhav, is that very often not having these complementary founders tends to become a choke point for the startup at that journey. So they probably have raised the initial 50 lakhs to 1 crore, which is a bootstrap. They managed to get another 4 crores of funding. But as Sailesh very nicely mentioned, the startup needs to understand and be able to model. You don't need to be a finance person to model business. You need to be able to model at each stage where you are, point A, and what is point B, and what will this funding take you? What is the definition of point B? It's like, the classic cliche thing is that you can't jump a cliff in 2 jumps, because in your first jump, if you have not reached the other side, you die, right? So what I've found to your question, Anubhav, is that a lot of startups may not have estimated what resource they need to get to the next stage
where they can be investable. And I'm not necessarily saying everybody needs to depend on outside funding. There are enough bootstrap startups. But the point I'm saying is the critical mass needed, the thought process, the internal competence needed to estimate the resources required to get to the next stage results in a lack of critical mass, which results in you being stuck in a what they call the valley of death. That you have revenue, but it's not enough to be able to inspire the next level of resources. You're not able to get new talent to come in and join you. You're not alive, you're not dead. That's the problem.
Thanks, Srini. Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, all absolutely valid points. I think for me, a large part of it is beyond that, just what you need to do to get to what we call product market fit, right? So there are stages that you go through. And like I mentioned earlier, there are hypotheses that every startup starts with, thinking that I know this problem, I think I know that this set of actions will solve it and distribute it, and maybe they just didn't manage to build the right hypothesis and run out of capital. Sometimes they've estimated, but the hypothesis proved wrong, and it just didn't work. Is one, right? Or they just didn't have enough runway to get there. Is another big part of all of this. I think another one. I mean, essentially, product market fit is the biggest part of all of this for sure. And I've lost my train of thought. I was about to say something else.
Now you pivot.
So I think at Answer, we always believe we have three kinds of skill sets, and I think Sanjay's put it quite crisply. And we always believe we have a visionary, a hacker, and a hustler to make it work. And most of the time, what we do is we kind of negotiate with another. And we as humans are the only people who can negotiate and convince ourselves that's true. No other being in this planet can do that. We do it really well. So sometimes we believe that 2 out of 3 is good enough to start with, and we'll find the other one along the way. So that's why I said I think for me, when a company hits a saturation point, it's either because not necessarily all of them, but to be because of passion of the team, financial discipline or planning, and problem-solving skills, scalability, and also lack of raising enough capital. I think the last decade has seen the most number of bridge rounds ever happen in this world, and especially in the country. And I think that's not just because of poor planning, but also because of different factors which have led to tremendous growth or underestimating the external circumstances which you normally do. So it's a mix of all these factors which results in that. But as Sanjay put it, well, in a very nice fashion, it is the value of debt. If you're not really scaling, you're not that.
You got that. Yes. Old age, I'm going to blame it. No, one of the things I was just going to say was that the skills required to grow a startup from 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and then 10 to 100 are not the same. And very often, the founders that could get you to a certain point couldn't take you past that next level or grow you to that next stage. And that does happen. In some cases, you see the founders are swapped out. In other cases, it just doesn't work, and that's where they plateau. They're fine, but they'll never grow further than that.
So just a quick second, in a couple of seconds. Do you think they diversify too much when the checks start hitting the account? Like we should try this also, we should try this also, because that was one thing which we saw in our research work that we are doing back then. And Sanjay was also at that time involved and rightly pointed out it's a two-way tunnel. On one side you take the market, the other side you take the product. And until as you are meeting at a certain point, either you'll take too much to the product side or you'll take too much on the market side. Do you think, have you seen or experienced too much of diversification start happening when check starts hitting?
I mean, check starts hitting is one reason. There's a couple of reasons that can happen, right? And one is that they didn't get the right guidance and they're just trying to do too much. That's a very common one in immature startup companies, right? They just think I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. But even more, I even see that's easy to spot, right, and point out. But another one is just they haven't defined their, there are 3 questions normally asked. What problem are you solving? Who are you solving it for? Why? Right? The who you're solving it for is too broad. They're trying to do too many things. Like you can't address a market for everyone in one shot because you have limited time, money, and resources. And so that's a very, very common mistake. You really have to focus on who are your early adopters, who are the people that are your hair on fire people, as they call it, right? That focus needs to be there. That's missing quite often. So I think that's one reason for it for sure.
Any interesting passes that you people made went on big? I would.
All the time. I think that's
Which,
what
which one example, if you have, you passed and it became a huge. I know for Sanjay for sure. I guess. It was that popcorn company, right? Imla Foods you passed, right? Yeah, I passed.
I have many more.
I think
Not to. It should start from there. Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yes, start from there.
No, that's a part of any investor's journey. I think there should never be, as they say, investor remorse. Right? There is no last bus, and I feel
Sorry to interrupt. What from where I'm coming is like, what exactly was your reason to say no that time? Sure, it might be right and relevant at that time. They might have done those changes, and the next set of investors had no issue with it.
Sorry.
From that point.
Yeah. So I'll give you a slight variation and maybe two quick ones. I won't take much time. So way back, I met a young team. The founder was my neighbor actually. We have a small, 12 apartment building, and he was staying on the ground floor. I'm on the first floor. So he was ex Brahmati, and they had built a very interesting platform, AI platform, where they were able to roll out very quick AI and data solutions for companies. Fascinating company. It was bootstrapped. So he came to me actually for advice, not even for money. He came to ask me, at what stage should he raise money. He was making some money on consulting revenue already. So I said, yeah, consulting mein paisa aa raha hai. Why do you want investor to come and ride on your head? So don't raise, wait for some time. So he didn't raise. And in less than 12 months from the point he had met me, Apple acquired him for $25 million. So the point is that if I had reached out to him to say, you know what, I can put in an initial 50 lakhs if you would like, he would have happily taken it actually. So I didn't do that. It was not really a pass, but I felt very happy for it. Second quick one, Uni4, which is now a multi-unicorn. So I was an investor in Uni4 via Indian Angels, but I got out at the point about 3 years back where they were flipping to the US side. So the India entity was flipping towards US. I had a small investment. I got out with a decent X. But after I got out, it has gone up by another 20x or 30x. So life goes on. I feel happy for it.
Srini.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, I don't have any really exciting stories.
I think one worth mentioning, which was in the news recently, is Mobstack. It's Axel's portfolio company. They had come to us because Mobstack was coming up with some new hardware devices, and as a fund as not large as Sequoia, Axel, and whatnots, we were limited by capital. So we said we really can't invest in a hardware startup, and they're just pivoting and raising really large sums. So we said we won't be able to participate, and now they've just they've gone in with this. I think they're going to go IPO in 2 years. So, but again, as I think all of us said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and what's interesting is the founder, Ravi, is being my neighbor growing up, so I know him personally as well. But I think the reason is more because of Ansel and the state which we invest. But I don't think we've ever had any remorse. And when you first asked about the companies, we missed out on the first out on a number of companies, but my colleague was in the audience here, Yashwant, who probably has at least 30 companies he's shortlist for Anthem in invest, and all of them have raised at least 10, gone multiples of 30x.
So, my next question, I mean, see, the Headstart is for us is all about the community and the people around, and that's how we make our sessions very short and open to Q&A. Now, before I go to that, after seeing the support here, I got reminded when we used to discuss back in those days, we were thrown out of Lamakan. Because police came that 150 people with cars and bikes, but what are you people doing here? Some mob mobilization is going on. And that was the support which I see today also. It's been 15 years so far with Headstart, and amazing support. Thank you so much for turning out in big numbers. We will open the floor for questions for all of you. One last question to all. During your journey in the portfolio, you time and again, as and when you get time, here it is like you'll have to keep a check. As an angel, you keep checks after 2 3 months. Sanjay sir might have more structured approach because so where what do you see few red flags? You know the portfolio is going in the right direction. I need to put my foot down and tell them not to do this. When do you see what kind of red flags are very relevant that if they are doing this, they should not, which would be an advice to most of the founders here also. Starting from Sanjay.
The first thing I look for about is regular communication. I think it's very important as a mentor. I try to share with the founders that good, bad, or ugly, your intent is good. As an investor, I'm coming in with my eyes open. I'm a high risk investor looking for high returns. So I understand that there can be business problems which can come. There can be uncertainty. A lot of things can go wrong. I mean, when COVID happened, a lot of startups on one side did really well, healthcare oriented, a lot of online, digital, service oriented. There were a lot of startups which were completely physical oriented, and they went through for no fault of theirs. So life can, serve you different sort of deals, right? But never stop communicating with your team, it means your employees and your investors, right? It's always good to be transparent, to be timely, to be clear, good, bad, or ugly. Don't throw a surprise. Don't go back to your investor only when your money is exhausted for more money. A surprise is always a problem, and you have lost their mind share by then. If you have kept them informed on a monthly basis, progress, bad things, challenges, asks. So, to answer your red flag question, Anubhav, I worry when a founder stops communicating. Right? That would be my biggest worry. As an investor, I can live with everything. I mean, that's what we are in this business for. But communication, transparency, just being there, I think matters a lot.
Yeah. So to add to that, I think even if they communicate, I think it's doing what they say they'll do, right? So you have a call. They say they're going to do a few things over the next 3 months. Next call you have, they've done completely different things, right? That's obviously a red flag, right? Integrity, essentially, and it can be even the little things. To me, integrity is critical to a startup scaling, right? And so watching for things where they're cutting corners, those sort of issues for sure is another one. And I think I'm continuing my. Sorry, I'm thinking of something else at the same time. There was one more.
I think what Srini and Ranjay covered it very much alive. For us as a fund, quite structured, and we also regulated by SEBI. So we ensure that we get quarterly updates. But as Srini mentioned, it's very important that is it authentic and is it how true is it to what they're reporting. And for that, what we always practice at Antel is to have 3 leading and lagging metrics we capture every quarter. And these are only numbers, so they don't take too much time for the founder to fill. And we get a sense of are they, digressing, or are they been pivoting, or have the bank in the money in the bank been reducing, or have their clients been falling off as the success factor been coming down. So we have some metrics for each industry which we measure, and hence we put them in red, green, orange. Depending on that, we kind of spend more time with the founders.
Pretty similar what
Just again, the last one actually was back to something you said earlier, which is just founder issues. Right? When you start hearing one founder complaining about somebody else or internal issues, that's obviously a huge
relationship not working.
and it's, by the way, it's one of the biggest things that kill a startup. Right?
Yeah. So similar to what Saleshi was saying, we also follow in CI also like you and Sanjay has been our mentors. Putting the startups in these flags, red, green, yellow. Yellow means they should have been someplace, but they are still slower. Green means they are going as per the
expectations that we had, that by this time they were angel or go VC. So pretty much similar, and I understand how that tracking